Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going to get real practical today with AI and school psychology.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be looking at what using AI tools actually looks like for school psychologists, like right now today.
Right.
Based on some articles we found. And forget about all those like sci-fi robots.
Yeah.
This is about real world stuff people are using.
It really is. It's not some, far off in the future concept. AI tools are already being used by school psychologists
Wow.
in all sorts of ways. And it's really interesting to see how they're being, integrated into like the everyday work.
So it's not about like replacing school psychologists. It's more about making their work like better.
Yeah, making it more effective.
Yeah.
The articles we're looking at today lay out 7 different ways that AI can be used in school psychology.
Okay.
And what I think is really interesting is like they're very specific. It's not just these vague ideas.
Right.
They're like prompts that you can actually use with AI.
Okay. Let's get into it. What's the first way that AI is showing up in the field?
Well, the first one is all about generating recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
So, school psychologists, they spend tons of time, analyzing assessments, creating these individualized plans for students. And AI can really help streamline that whole process, by turning that assessment data into targeted suggestions.
So instead of like having to manually comb through all that data, AI can kind of do the heavy lifting and present some potential recommendations.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the prompts that's in the article is, based on a student's score, results generate strength-based recommendations for improving attention in the classroom and suggest behavioral interventions that can be included in an IEP.
That's pretty impressive. It's like having a whole other set of eyes, but with the ability to like process information in a way that we just can't as humans. I imagine this could save a ton of time.
Oh, absolutely. And that saved time lets those school psychologists, focus on other things.
Yeah.
Like building relationships with students and families.
Okay. What's another way that AI is being used?
The next area is in consultation and brainstorming.
Okay.
So, sometimes a school psychologist needs a fresh perspective,
Oh, for sure.
or new ideas when they're dealing with a challenging case.
Right.
And AI can actually act as like a sounding board.
That's so interesting. So you could like literally have a brainstorming session with AI. How does that even work?
Well, you just present the AI with like a situation
Okay.
and ask it for suggestions for interventions or other ways to approach the problem.
Wow.
Like one of the examples in the article is, I'm working with a student who has difficulty with self-regulation.
Okay.
Suggest 3 intervention strategies that could be applied at home and at school to help them with their emotional control.
So you give the AI some context and spits out some potential strategies. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Would it be limited by like the data that it was trained on though?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's really important to use AI as like a tool, not like the definitive answer.
Right.
The school psychologists, they still have to use, their professional judgment and expertise.
It's a partnership then, not a replacement.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. What else? What's another application that stands out to you?
Well, one that I think could really change how we talk about students is using AI for strength-based language.
Okay.
So think about, traditional psychological reports that tend to focus on deficits.
Yeah.
And the areas where a student's struggling,
Right.
AI can actually help change that
Oh, wow.
and help us rephrase things in a more positive, strength-based way.
That's a really cool idea. That would be a lot more encouraging, I would think, for students and families.
Right.
But how does AI actually do that?
Well, let's say you've got a statement in a report that says, like, the student struggles with peer interactions
Okay.
and often avoids group activities.
Right.
You could just prompt the AI with something like, rephrase this statement to highlight strengths.
Okay.
And the AI might then give you a way to reframe that statement to focus more on the student's individual preferences or
Yeah.
strengths in other areas.
So instead of only saying what the student finds difficult, it like helps you find a way to emphasize their strengths in that area.
Exactly. It can have a huge impact on how a student is perceived,
For sure.
not just by parents and teachers, but even by themselves.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
It's about creating that
yeah,
positive,
exactly.
supportive environment.
Yeah.
This is really making me rethink how we talk about students and their challenges.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else can AI do in this communication realm?
Well, let's face it, psychological reports can be really hard to understand for parents.
Totally.
They're dense, there's jargon.
Yeah.
AI can help bridge that gap
Wow.
by creating parent-friendly summaries.
That's so important.
Yeah.
Parents need to know what's going on.
Right.
But sometimes those reports can be really overwhelming.
Yeah. Imagine being able to give a parent a short summary
Yeah.
that explains the key findings in plain language.
Right.
highlighting strengths and areas where they might need extra support.
That'll be huge for parent-teacher communication.
Right.
It could make it way more collaborative.
hmm
How would you even ask AI to do that?
Well, you could just say, summarize the key findings of this psychoeducational assessment in parent-friendly language,
Okay.
explaining the student's strengths and areas of concern simply.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like having a translator
Right.
that can break down that complex information
Exactly.
into something that everyone can understand.
Hmm.
So what other ways can AI help school psychologists manage like the amount of information they have to go through?
Well, all those long reports they have to read, AI can actually help with that too.
Really?
It can generate concise summaries, pulling out the key points.
So it's like a personalized Cliff Notes generator. I could
Huh.
definitely use that in my life. How would that work?
Well, let's say you have a 10-page report,
Okay.
but you only need the main takeaways.
Right.
You could just ask AI to summarize this 10-page psychoeducational report into three key points, focusing on the student's strengths,
Okay.
areas of need, and recommended interventions.
That's super helpful,
Right.
especially when you're short on time. I could see that being really useful for talking with teachers and other professionals too.
Absolutely. And make sure that everyone's got the most important information in a way that's easy to digest.
Right.
What's really interesting is AI can even help with something as simple as writing emails.
Wait, it can write emails for you?
Not write them for you, but help you draft them.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's say you need to send an email to a teacher about a student's progress.
Right.
You could give AI the key points,
Okay.
and it'll generate a draft.
That would save so much time.
Yeah.
What kind of prompt would you use for that?
Something like, write an email to a teacher summarizing the results of a recent behavioral observation,
Okay.
including recommendations for support in the classroom.
Wow. So it takes the information and turns it into this professional, well-written email. That's
Yeah.
impressive. What's the last application that we're going to talk about?
So the last one might be the most powerful.
Okay.
AI's ability to analyze data.
Okay.
School psychologists, they're always collecting data on students' behavior, academic performance.
Right.
All sorts of factors. But, going through all that data and finding trends,
It's a lot.
it's a huge task. AI can really help streamline that and make it better.
Data analysis is so important, but it can be so overwhelming.
It can.
How does AI make that easier?
Well, it can analyze these huge data sets
Okay.
and find patterns and trends that we might miss.
Okay.
So let's say you're tracking a student's behavior over a few weeks.
Right.
You can ask AI to analyze the student's behavior, tracking data from the past 6 weeks, and identify any noticeable trends related to environmental triggers or specific times of the day.
Wow. So it can go through all that and point out those patterns. It's like a superpower.
Yeah, it can really help school psychologists find the root cause of a student's behavior
Right.
and come up with better interventions.
Wow. So it seems like AI is really shifting from this, futuristic concept to a practical tool that's changing how school psychologists work.
Totally, it is.
That's amazing to see these real-world examples.
And this is just the beginning. As AI keeps getting better,
Yeah.
we'll see even more innovative and impactful applications.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Me too.
This is definitely making me think about the future of school psychology.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I'd love to go back and look at some of those specific examples a little more in depth.
Yeah, let's take a closer look.
Perfect. So stay tuned, listeners, because we're about to get even more practical with AI in school psychology.
Okay, so let's go back and look at some of these ways we can use AI and how they can really help school psychologists.
Yeah, let's dive a little deeper. We've talked about 7 different ways AI is being used. Which one do you think has like the most potential?
That's a tough one. They all have their own, advantages.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the idea of AI helping school psychologists use strength-based language,
Right.
that's really compelling.
I agree. I could see why it's like such a small change,
Yeah.
but it can make a huge difference in how students are seen and how they're supported.
Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine the difference between a report that focuses on what a student's bad at
Right.
versus one that highlights their strengths, even when they're struggling.
Yeah, instead of saying, this student has trouble with reading comprehension,
Yeah.
you could say something like, this student's really creative.
Right.
And we're looking at how to use that creativity to help them with reading comprehension.
Exactly. It helps boost their self-esteem.
Right.
And it encourages teachers to approach their learning from a more positive place.
It's about seeing the whole picture.
Yes.
Seeing the challenges, but also seeing their strengths.
And AI can help find that balance. Sometimes when you're writing a report, you might not think of those other ways to say things.
Right. It's like having another person there with you, helping you see the student's potential.
But it's not about pretending everything's okay.
Right.
It's still important to recognize where a student needs help.
Of course.
It's about giving a more complete and accurate picture of who they are.
And ultimately, getting them the best support. AI can help us get away from that negative language
Right.
and move toward a more positive approach, which is better for everyone.
Definitely. Now, another thing that really interested me was how AI can analyze data and find trends.
Oh, yeah. That one was super cool. It seems like it could be so powerful.
Absolutely. School psychologists have so much data to deal with.
It's crazy.
AI can help them make sense of it in a way that they just couldn't on their own.
It's like having a detective that can look through all that information and find the important clues.
Okay, so let's say you're working with a student who's having behavior problems in class.
Right.
You've been keeping track of their behavior.
Uh-huh.
Writing down what time it is, what subject they're in, who the teacher is, anything that happened before.
So you're getting all these details, but it's hard to see the patterns.
That's where AI comes in. You
Yeah.
can put all that data into an AI system,
Okay.
and it'll analyze it for you. It'll look for patterns and connections.
So instead of trying to find those trends in a spreadsheet, AI can do it for you.
Exactly. And it might show you that the student's behavior is worse on certain days of the week
Okay.
or during certain classes.
Yeah, that could be huge for figuring out how to help them.
Right. Instead of guessing, you're using real data to understand what's going on.
It makes it so much more accurate.
And what's really great is that these AI tools are becoming more and more available to school psychologists.
That's great. So more people can use them to do their jobs better
Yeah.
and ultimately help more students.
Exactly. Of all the things we've talked about, which one do you think would be the easiest for a school psychologist to start with?
I think being able to make those parent-friendly summaries of reports would be a good place to start.
Uh-huh.
It's something that's really useful and can make a difference right away.
Yeah. Good communication with parents is so important.
It is.
And AI can make that happen.
Let's be honest, those reports can be confusing even for us.
They can. They're full of jargon and technical terms.
Totally. But with AI, you can take all that and turn it into something that any parent can understand.
Exactly. It's not just about communication, though.
Right.
It's about making parents feel like they're part of the process.
So important.
It's about building that connection between the school and the home.
And making sure everyone's working together.
And it's a great way for school psychologists to start using AI
Yeah.
and see how it can make their work easier.
It's like a low-pressure way to try it out
Right.
and see how it can make things better.
Yeah.
And then they can try other things too,
Uh-huh.
like making recommendations, brainstorming, analyzing data,
It's all about learning and trying new things.
and AI can be a big part of that.
But it's important to remember that AI is a tool. It's
Right.
not a replacement for school psychologists.
It can't do everything.
The human part of the job is still the most important.
That's where the real connection happens.
We've looked at a lot of ways AI can be used in school psychology.
We have.
What's the one thing you want people to take away from all this?
I think the main message is that AI isn't something that's going to happen way in the future. It's here now,
It is.
and it's already changing things for the better.
It's not about robots taking over.
Right.
It's about giving school psychologists new tools and new ways to understand things.
And it's up to us to use these tools the right way. Always put in the needs of the students first.
Now, I bet some people listening are curious about that school psych AI thing we talked about.
Yeah, that's a great resource for anyone who wants to learn more.
So for all the school psychologists out there, check it out.
Yes, definitely.
And for everyone else, think about how AI could change your job.
The possibilities are endless.
This has been a great conversation.
It really has.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with something to think about.
Okay, I'm listening.
What if AI could do a lot of the routine work that keeps school psychologists so busy?
Okay.
How would that change their job in the future? Could it give them more time to focus on those really complicated issues
Right.
and build stronger relationships with students?
That's a great question. It really makes you think about how AI could change things in a good way.
It's something we'll be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into AI in school psychology.
It's been great talking about this with you.
And to everyone listening, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep imagining what's possible.
The future of education is bright, and AI can help us make it even better.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll be back soon with more exciting things to explore.